Hello, 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 and it's noon. So I hope some of you can join me for lunchtime for a little quick chat. And yeah, I am not screen prime time ready, and I don't care. Like, when have I ever really cared? Those of you that have hung around with me. Um, so I'm only streaming this into Facebook right now because, oh my lord, the tech energy between all of these solar flares and Mercury retrograde pre-shadow in Virgo. So our tech, I'm gonna just come right out and say I think this Mercury retrograde is not gonna be super awful. Like most people, like the emotional, like, oh my God, like stuff that normally people are worried about. I think it's gonna be much more tech-based because Virgo is about communication and stuff like that. If there's a sign I know about, it's Virgo because that's my sun sign. Um, but I think that right out the gate, I just want to say the technology is going to be really interesting over the next couple of weeks. So the entire month of August basically is going to be a Mercury retrograde. I think it's like from the 5th is Mercury retrograde proper to the 28th, I want to say. Um, but that's not what I want to talk about today. So today I came on. I've been kind of like keeping a low profile in the streaming because um I had a bit going on, and what I that's why I tell us what I did this summer. I just am gonna really quickly check to make sure that I'm streaming into where I want to be streaming into because you know Facebook and me is, oh, there it is. Yep, I'm streaming. Yay, I'm live. Woohoo, yay me. So, okay, cool. So if you're gonna join me, that'd be awesome. And if you're watching the replay, so glad you're watching. I love you so much. So, and if you want to, pop in with some questions, you're more than welcome to put them in the comments below and just say hello or whatever. But yeah, so here's the deal. We're entering into what I like to call the second half of the year in my mind is retrograde season. And if there is something, I'm not an astrologer. I really am just like an intuitive medium. I shouldn't say that. I am a fourth generation intuitive medium. Shouldn't shortchange myself. Poi poi. So, but I do look at the energy because I see astrology as energy that is supportive. Like we always are doing things, like that's part of the 3D experience. We're always doing something. But certain situations in the cosmos lend supportive energy to what we're doing. So that said, I love, and this is why I kind of focus mainly on this. I don't really talk about like, you know, general astrology and all that kind of stuff. But I love my full and new moons and the manifesting by the moon process, which is why I teach classes on that, which stuff, this is going to be interesting. So, and also I love me some retrogrades. Like, I know that is not what everybody loves, but I love me some retrogrades and I love me some moon stuff. Those are my two things that I love. I do kind of keep an eye on some other things, but for the most part, I love all of that, mostly because it's a lot of inner work. And as a Virgo sun with a Pisces moon, I love doing all the inner stuff. And I love supporting you to do the inner stuff too. So that's kind of why I wanted to make this video, because August is going to be really interesting. You thought July was interesting? Girl. So we're heading into retrograde season. Aside from the US election, I'm just going to like kind of be like, okay, we're going to put that over here for right now because that's a whole other monkey. That is like more just like on the boob tube in the background as we're navigating our stuff. I just want to, and plus I know that there are some of you that are watching from across the pond. So that's not really, you're like, who gives a shit about that? I'm worried about my own shit. So that said, let's talk about Mercury going retrograde. We have a new moon, like, I have all my calendars pulled up over here on the iPad. So on the 4th, which is Sunday coming up, if you're watching this after the live, we have both Mercury retrograde and a new moon in Leo. So Mercury retrograde is Virgo, new moon is in Leo. So new moon, starting new things, all this stuff, which I will talk about in a minute for me. But it's like shining it out to the world, right? And Mercury retrograde is about like what are we supposed to be doing here when I'm supposed to be letting go of stuff because that so that I can move forward and stepping into my light, right? Stepping into my regalness, stepping into that which is me. So we have a lot of stuff going on. There's a confluence of energies that I want to talk about. So I'm going to just give you a rundown on all of the things that will be retrograde as of Monday, August 5th, because I'm going to do this and just send this out to my newsletter as well. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you the because in a minute, but I'm kind of trying to do everything at once because I'm streamlining for this next month or so. Okay, so Mercury goes retrograde in Virgo on Monday, or rather on Sunday, along with a new moon in Leo. Right now, though, right this very minute, that's just kind of like the cherry on the sundae. Right this minute, we have Pluto retrograde in Aquarius. We have Neptune retrograde in Pisces. We have Saturn retrograde in Pisces. We have Chiron retrograde in Aries. What does all this mean? Because we can look at things, as current society likes us to look at things in silos, and I just don't love that because that's not how life is. Life is messy and life is beautiful and it's full of this confluence of creativity. And I think that's really how we're supposed to be living. So when I look at this kind of stuff, I look at what's going on and kind of tap into spirit and source and kind of say, well, what does this really mean for us? What, like, these are the energies we're working under. So what are the tasks and the things? And as a coach, I'm a soul coach and I'm an intuitive medium and all that stuff. And oh my gosh, the allergies, y'all. Um, and so I like to bring all of that to the table to support the journey. So with that in mind, like I'm looking at all these things with this interesting perspective. So what does this all mean? So Pluto retrograde in Aquarius. Pluto is transformation. So what I channeled, like I was like, okay, and I just wrote it down. So I'll read it to you. How have I transformed my thoughts, beliefs, behavior patterns to step more fully into my true self and or the new, more intentional version of self, and what else do I need to let go of in this same area to lean in even more? So I would say if you want to like rewind that and like jot that down as journal prompts or stuff that you want to think about, and that's throughout this whole thing. So I'm just going to read these kind of once through, and if you want to rewind it and listen and jot that down, that's cool. And I would encourage you to kind of like ponder this in meditation, maybe journal stuff like that. So I'll just kind of run down this and then we'll talk about it a little bit more, which is so that's Pluto retrograde in Aquarius, Neptune retrograde in Pisces. So Neptune is like the water, the underworld, like Neptune and Pisces. To me, that's all the same kind of stuff. Like it's water, it's love, it's emotion, it's all the yummy feels and all the tumultuous feels, right? But what does that mean if it's in retrograde? So we're talking about what is spirit telling me that means. This is where I'm saying my astrology is not meeting up with like the traditional, this is how you astrologize things. This is where I look at the astrology, what's being said, I know what they mean, and then I say, spirit, what does this mean specifically for what I have to share here? And then channel that back to you. So Neptune retrograde in Pisces, what did I learn about trusting my inner voice or my intuition? I think this is something people are opening up to. And how can I lean more into this? So what did I learn before? Because like we're thinking once it hits, you're looking and you're reviewing, what have I learned already? What have I learned about in the last 6 months about trusting my intuition, trusting myself? And how can I lean into that more? Like, what else can I do? And then Saturn retrograde in Pisces. Saturn and Pisces are kind of like, to me, they generally on the surface don't mesh well because one is like super structured and one is super like la 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 la. But honestly, when I look at this, since I am a Virgo, which is like super structured, and a Pisces moon, that to me says it actually is complementary to each other. Because what this is saying is, what did I learn about my structures and systems? These could be belief structures, these could be belief systems, these could be how I do things in my life. Am I using coping mechanisms or am I actually healing? Like, are those coping mechanisms habits, or do I need to look at them again and see that I need to deep dive into these feelings that aren't always super easy to do, and let go of that coping mechanism, which is now a habit, and trade it for a healthy behavior, that kind of things. Because coping mechanisms, when they turn into habits, a lot of times become addictions of some form or fashion: alcohol, smoking, drugs, behavior with others, like eating habits or exercising too much or too little, like things that we do in the moment to like cope with things that then we think, oh, well, that made me feel better. So I'm just going to do that instead of dealing with my feelings. That's where I feel like this is what this means, that Saturn retrograde in Pisces. Like, where can I stand on my story rather than in my story? Like, where am I healing stuff? Okay. And then Chiron is retrograde in Aries. And I am big on this. I'm a Gen Xer. I love being a Gen Xer. I don't care what anybody says. And I also love me my Zoomers. I've said this weekend, or this week when I was, last weekend when I was at the shop doing readings. I love all the Gen Xers that I work with, and I love everybody, but I love my little baby Zoomers. I love y'all so much. I love that, like, you're kind of like us Gen Xers, where you're looking at the world like, WTF, y'all, what the hell did you do? And what can I do? I'm helping. I'm doing the best I can. I love y'all. I want you to be like, I'm crazy, witchy Aunt Michele. You come and hang out with me, little Zoomers. I'll look after you. But the reason I bring up generation during Chiron and Aries is because Generation X has Chiron and Aries. Look at your chart, it's there. What that means is Aries is all about who you are, like what makes you you. Aries is the first sign. It is your individuality. It is your authentic self. It is what is like your heart and what motivates you. What is your why? And are you living in alignment with your why? Okay. Chiron is the wounded healer. Chiron was this centaur who used to run around and everybody loved him because like they'd be like, "Ooh, I have a boo-boo. He kiss it, make it better." It was great. So Chiron was like the healer of all healers. But as is with usual, he couldn't heal himself. He was always trying to heal himself, but he was so looking after everybody else. So Chiron for everyone in Gen X is in Aries, and that's Aries, and that's where our wound is. Like, our wound is like, who are we? And it's so funny because like we're called the X generation. It was coined way back in the 80s, where everybody was like, we don't know who the hell we are. Like, we don't, we're not defined as the greatest generation or the boomers at the time. We were Gen X. We were the smallest little generation floating around, even today. And it was very much like we didn't conform to anything. We didn't want to be a beehive worker. We didn't want to be under a certain generation's thumb. We didn't want to conform to anything. And I think a lot of us are kind of like that now, where we're just kind of like we're feral. We're out there doing our own thing. Yeah, and we kind of just are like, yeah, whatever. If that didn't work, we'll just try something different, you know? So there is this interesting overlap of dynamic where Gen X is like it's defined by Chiron and Aries, and now Chiron and Aries is retrograde, which means we're going to have to look at ourselves both individually, and this goes for every generation. Really, I don't want to just focus on Gen X as far as like this is only happening for them, because it's Chiron is in Aries and retrograde for everybody. It's just going to really, really kind of stick with those of us that are in that generation, because that's where ours is in our chart. So, and if it is in your chart, then that's also going to affect you more strongly. But I think the last several retrogrades, like over the last couple of years where this has happened, we've been through a lot. We've been through a lot. And I think this one is not going to be as challenging as long as you've done your work. Meaning, am I healing the wounds that I need to heal that are showing up in my life, whether they be relationship based, whether they be about, that are in relation to your identity, how you move through the world on your own. I think that's the big thing for all of us. Like, normally, us Gen Xers have been like, I don't really love adulting. This adulting thing, like 1 star on TripAdvisor, right? I'm looking for a more adultier adult to like help me out. And all of a sudden we're like, oh, I'm the adultier adult that I need to be helping people out. And that's kind of where we're stepping into. And that's not maybe where we want to be right now. But like that's on the grander scale, but also I think the Gen Xers are coming into their own. And that's where we have that Chiron and Aries in retrograde showing up, like where we're asking ourselves, who are we? Who are we? And I want to write I want to write my story, and I want us as a collective to write our story before somebody else who's not from our collective writes it for us. I think that's really what it is. Write your story now before somebody writes it for you. And that's where, this is where we go inside and say, what is my story? Who am I? What is my inner memoir? I don't have to write a whole memoir and put it out on Amazon, but like, honestly, that's really what we're doing right now. That's what this is. So you have all this retrograde energy going on, which I want to make it real clear is not a bad thing. In fact, it's a beautiful thing. It is such a beautiful thing because when, other than in the cosmos, are you given like months at a time? Like this is like almost a whole month. The other retrogrades are several months to just really kind of take a pause, because that's the other thing. Things are going to slow down. So you might get a little frustrated, but that's okay. Just realize in your head, oh, it's a retrograde moment. Slowing down, taking a pause, and really focusing on what it is that is being what it is that's the invitation for you to review, renovate, maybe release during these retrograde energies. So I think that's a big deal. Now, the other things that I think as a whole, that this whole month is going to be all about, starting with this new moon this weekend, is taking back your power. What does that really mean? Because people throw that phrase around a lot and nobody really talks about what it means. Because you know me, I am not one to bullshit anybody. I show up and I tell you what it means. If you like it, great. If you don't, that's fine too. But I'm telling you what it is, and you can do with it what you like. And what that means is when we take back our power, it means we have to be in acceptance, accountability, and then realize our responsibility in every choice we make. I cannot say anymore, once you get this, you can't say anymore, that person made me feel this way, or that person made me do this. Now, I want to be really clear. Okay. I want to be really clear. And I wrote, I really clear about, I'm not talking about when somebody transgresses against you in a way that's forcible. Like if somebody, transgresses against you in a way that's forcible, and forces you to do something and it's hurtful, that's not what I'm talking about. Those are not choices that you've made, obviously. What I am talking about is when you are done with that experience, that moment in time, the choice of how you move forward is fully yours. Okay. That means something happens, because we always are bumping into other people, whether it is in a big way or in a just everyday mundane way. But the fact is, we're always interacting, and how we move away from those interactions is our choice. How we move from that point in time is our choice. That's what I'm talking about. So whether you are witnessing something on the news, something in the parking lot at the grocery store, getting cut off in traffic, or like something that's a lot more intense, and you're interacting with somebody else or someone's interacting with you, how you move out of that situation from that moment that it's complete forward, that is your choice. You can either sit in the story or you can stand on the story. Darren was telling me about this thing from Sadhguru that he watched, about how Sadhguru was saying, you can either, there's a pile of crap in front of you. You can either stand in it and wipe it all over yourself and then get upset that you stink like crap, or you can stand in it and kind of be like, oh, there's shit. I just walked through a pile of shit. Oops. I guess I'll go wipe my shoes off and keep going. Like, which do you want to do? So that's what I'm talking about. And that's the invitation for the Leo new moon. How do I shine forth and make the choices, like, regardless of what's going on, regardless of situation, because the only choices I can make and control the outcomes of is how I choose to view something, choose to experience it, choose to feel. Now, this is not to say, I'm not a big fan of toxic positivity. I'm not talking about saying that, you slap a happy face on a garbage can full of stinky garbage in August and expect it not to smell. What I am saying is this: you look at the trash can and you say, hmm, do I take that out? Or do I sit here and just complain about the smell? Which do you want? That's the choices. And if you want a really great example of this in real life, like, because I know there's people out there that are like, I've been through this trauma and all this other stuff. And I get that. Like, I'm not over here sitting, on a cloud, where everything has been glorious my entire life at all. What I am saying is there are obviously real life situations that can be really, really heartbreaking that we either witness or we participate in some form or fashion. But again, how we move from that space is really a choice. It really is. How we move ahead from that space is a choice. It's a thought, and it's just a thought that moves us forward. And that thought takes us to the next experience. Okay. If you want to read a book that's really, I mean, it is one of the most, I'd say it is the most moving book that I have read in this century, or in both centuries. I would say probably both centuries that I've existed in, the last one and this one. Um, it's a book called The Choice by Dr. Edith Eger. And I love her. She's like, I think she's still alive. She's like 90 something. And she just talks about her experience in a concentration camp as a child in Germany, and talks about how this idea of everything, if we are accountable and responsible for our own choices of how we feel and choose to experience something, that is what makes the difference. That is what propels us forward in a way that we are feeling good about. Like, the situation could be horrendous and horrifying, but how you choose to view how you move forward is all up to you. And that right there, I feel like that book is so, like, the story of this new moon, this August going into 2025, like all of this, like we're at that kind of like shifting point. There's just going to be more and more and more that we're going to witness, and we have to really be intentional and conscious about how we're going to choose to experience all of it. All right? That is the message. That's the message for everything. And yeah, that's our energy report for August, I think, is making those choices. That new moon that's coming up, that's going to open up this whole thing. And yes, we have other stuff. There's full moons, there's other things happening during August. And I probably will come back and talk about them when I have a moment. But right now, I do want to show you, like, what have I done this summer? Well, I packed up everything because and you should see our house. Oh my goodness. We sold our house. I've been talking about wanting to move since 2019. Finally happened. So bye-bye, Bellevue. Hello, Gallatin. So I'm going to be a good witch of the north, I guess, at some point in the very near future. So we are moving in the next couple of weeks, and very excited about it. So I think what really happened was that our little area of Nashville right here was kind of the last bastion of quietness and neighborhoodiness and all that stuff. And I've been here for 25 years, I think, something like that. And it just got to be like, in the last couple of years, it just got to not feel like home for us. So we decided we're gonna pick up our homestead and move it up not north. I want to, like, when in the South, when you say up north, you think like, Connecticut, but actually it's just one county up. So anyway, so we're going to be moving. So that's why I haven't been live streaming a lot. So what I did this summer is sell my house, pack it up, and in a couple of weeks, we're going to be moving. I'm really excited about it. We're going to have our own house with no demising walls shared with neighbors. I've never had that before, and I'm so excited. A little piece of heaven of our own. I think I have a quartz countertop kitchen, so high vibe cooking to happen. So I may be doing videos about kitchen witching, like the stuff that I like to post on Facebook about. And we're so excited, and we're gonna have a yard for our puppy of light, and maybe we'll have more puppies of light. I don't know. I like my puppies, so I've been showing Darren some ideas of puppies, and he's like, whatever. So we'll see what happens. But yes, what I did this summer is sell our house, and we're going to be moving. And I will share that adventure as well. And so that's why I have been kind of busy and offline for quite some time, because that whole process has taken a couple of months and will continue to take some. I'm actually just now opened up my calendar for readings. So if you're interested in readings, starting August 20th, you can go book them now. The link is in the description. And if you want to do like coaching or any of that kind of stuff, there are links for that on my website that you can go and check out. And coming soon, I will be doing videos again. I'm looking for a weekly basis kind of a thing, getting back to that stuff once I have my office set up in the new place, and some other things. Like there's all kinds of things I'm excited about that I want to share that'll be coming up in the new year and coming up. But biggest news is I'm moving. Secondly, yes, we'll be doing I think it's like the 8th or 9th annual Halloween card pulls on Halloween at lunchtime. Then the next week or so, I'll be doing the 2025 New Year reading for the collective, and then opening the calendar for private New Year readings for 2025. So all of that is coming, plus some other fun things. And if these allergies would stop, that would be awesome. I am so excited for all of this and for you. And I know August is going to be great. I know that it sounds tough because, none of us really like to go into the cave and like do all of that stuff and do the shadow work. But I want to say, I feel like a friend of mine, Jackie, she said, dancing with your shadow. I feel like that's what we need to do right now. Just dance with our shadow and see what it has to tell us and what it has to invite us to, and that bigger invitation of really being the person who makes those choices about how we feel, regardless of the situation, regardless of how mild or horrendous the situation is that we're experiencing or witnessing. We get to choose. We do. So I'm going to encourage you all to kind of figure out those choices. I would love to see, like, if you did read that book, The Choice by Dr. Edith Eger, it is a beautiful, beautiful story. Again, it's her true life story. It's how she navigated like really horrendous circumstances, just by choosing her thoughts. And the stuff that like she talks about, I was like, I've never read a book where I just cried. I mean, usually I cry at movies and stuff like that. Never cried at books before. So this was just like one of those things that I encourage every single person. If you have Spotify, if you have Audible, it's on there. If you're more of an audiobook person like me, if you are, I'll go back in and update the description and with a link to the book on Amazon, so that you're looking at the right one, because I always like to know the title and the author. But other than that, I would love anything you want to share with me in the comments. Would love to see that. And I love you all, and like wish me luck in this move, because oh my gosh, we're moving on like on during the week right after Mercury goes like proper retrograde. So this is going to be fun and interesting. Watch that technology, kids, and don't reply all. Okay, I love you guys, my soul family, my beautiful, beautiful soul sisters and brethren, and until next time, I'll see you in the vortex. Have a great week. I love you so much. Bye.